In this world where the echoes of pain and despair often reverberate through silent corridors, we must confront the truth that our silence is a weight, heavy and suffocating. When we witness suffering and choose to remain quiet, we cast shadows over those who desperately need light. It is in this silence that souls wither, voices are stifled, and dreams are crushed. The unspoken words become a barrier, a wall built of indifference, surrounding the very hearts that yearn to be understood. Let us consider those who suffer in isolation, the ones whose cries for help go unheard. In their silence, they're not merely waiting for a savior, they are pleading for recognition. We must understand that our silence can be a weapon, not just against injustice, but against hope itself. Each moment we remain silent, we risk contributing to the very darkness we claim to despise. We become complicit in their suffering, allowing the injustices to fester, to multiply, and to consume lives. We have witnessed the power of voices rising in unison, creating a symphony of strength that can shatter the chains of oppression. When we speak, we affirm our shared humanity. Our words can heal wounds and forge connections that empower those who feel powerless. Imagine the change that could blossom if we all dared to raise our voices, to challenge the status quo, and to stand in solidarity with the voiceless. It is our responsibility to cultivate empathy, to listen with open hearts, and to respond with courage. Our stories interweave, creating a tapestry of resilience and strength. Each time we choose to break our silence, we invite others to do the same. The act of speaking out can spark a movement, inspiring countless others to step forward and reclaim their narrative. We must remember that our silence, though comfortable, can suffocate the very spirit of hope. It is easy to look away, to ignore the suffering that surrounds us, but to do so is to deny our shared responsibility to one another. When we allow fear to silence us, we not only diminish ourselves, but we also deny others their right to be heard. So let us rise with voices unyielding, breaking the chains of silence that bind us. Let us stand for those who cannot stand for themselves, to amplify the whispers of the forgotten. Our words carry weight, and they have the power to ignite change. Let us be the voices that pierce through the darkness, that embrace those who have been left behind, and that inspire others to join in this noble struggle for justice. It is not just our silence that kills. It is our unwillingness to speak for those who suffer, to defend the rights of the marginalized, and to nurture the seeds of hope within us all. Let us never forget that our voices together can create a symphony of change that resonates across generations. It is time to speak, to act, and to transform the silence into a chorus of courage and compassion. Words are the threads that weave the fabric of our existence, and within them lies the power to elevate or annihilate. They can cradle the weary soul, offering solace in moments of despair, or they can pierce through the veil of silence, igniting a fire that transforms lives. The gentle caress of a kind word can lift the downtrodden, wrapping them in warmth and understanding, while the absence of speech can leave wounds unhealed, festering in the shadow. When we witness injustice, when we hear the cries of those in pain and we choose to remain silent, we become architects of their suffering. In that silence, we deny them the validation they so desperately seek. It is as if we are holding back the tide of compassion, allowing waves of indifference to crash upon the shores of their existence. Our words, when left unspoken, become a powerful force of neglect, drowning the hopes and dreams of those who look to us for support. Imagine the strength that lies in speaking truth to power, in shining a light upon the darkness that envelops those who suffer in silence. The act of voicing our beliefs can resonate like a drumbeat, calling forth a chorus of support, and solidarity. It is a reminder that we are not alone, that our struggles are not solitary battles, but shared experiences. Each time we allow our voices to rise, we chip away at the walls that silence the oppressed, breaking down barriers that keep their pain hidden. In moments when we could speak out, when we choose instead to turn away, we miss the opportunity to wield our words like a sword, cutting through the chains of oppression. The consequences of inaction reverberate beyond ourselves. They ripple through communities, spreading a culture of silence that smothers the cries for justice. When we hold back our voices, we stifle not just our own truth, but also the truths of those who yearn for liberation. Consider the stories of those who have dared to speak, those who have faced the winds of adversity and chosen to shout in defiance. They understood that silence can be deadly. Their words have sparked movements, inspired change, and illuminated paths for others to follow. They have turned the tide, transforming the air thick with despair into a breeze of hope, a promise that the weight of silence need not crush the spirit of the oppressed. In recognizing the power of our words, we must understand the responsibility that accompanies this gift. To be silent is to permit suffering to fester, to allow pain to be unacknowledged, and to accept the notion that some voices are more valuable than others. This notion must be dismantled. Each voice matters. Each story deserves to be told, and each truth deserves to be spoken. Let us embrace the transformative power of language, understanding that our words can be a balm for the wounded and a clarion call for justice. When we speak, we breathe life into hope. We light the way for those lost in darkness. We have the ability to create a world where silence is not a refuge for injustice, but rather a memory of a time when fear overshadowed the courage to act. As we gather our strength to speak out, let us remember that our silence is not simply a choice. It is a consequence that ripples through the lives of others. Our voices hold the key to unlocking the hearts and minds of those around us. It is our sacred duty to use them to rise above the whispers of doubt and fear and to shout, "I see you." Your pain matters. Your story deserves to be told. In doing so, we'll break the shackles of silence and illuminate a path toward healing and justice, proving that our words can indeed change the world. We inhabit a world woven together by the threads of responsibility, each of us bound to one another in an intricate dance of humanity. This dance calls for us to be vigilant, to speak out when the echoes of suffering reverberate through the air like a haunting melody. When we hear the muffled cries of those who are oppressed, we are summoned to act, not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot voice their pain. This is not a choice, but an obligation, a moral imperative that transcends comfort and convenience. In the quiet spaces where silence reigns, injustice festers. It thrives in the absence of our voices, transforming the cries of the downtrodden into whispers lost in the wind. Every time we choose silence over action, we allow the darkness to deepen. Those who suffer become shadows, their stories fading into obscurity and their needs unheard. We must recognize that our silence does not protect us. Rather, it endangers the very lives that rely on us to stand with them. Imagine the faces of those who wait, who hope for a flicker of support, a spark of acknowledgement that can ignite their spirits. They look to us, to our courage, to our willingness to confront the uncomfortable truths that bind us all. Each of us has a voice that can shatter the stillness that envelops their plight. But too often, we retreat into our shells, cloaking ourselves in apathy, convincing ourselves that our silence shields us from the burdens of the world. Yet we must ask ourselves, who are we protecting with our silence? Is it our own comfort we cherish? Or is it the suffering of others that we choose to ignore? When we turn away from the cries for help, we abandon our responsibility to one another. The truth is that in our silence, we become complicit in their suffering. We betray the bond of humanity that connects us all, allowing fear to silence our courage. We must embrace the power of our voices and understand that speaking out is not merely an act of rebellion. It is a declaration of love. It is an affirmation that we stand in solidarity with those who suffer. When we raise our voices against injustice, we breathe life into the hopes of the weary, letting them know they're not alone in their struggles. Our words can be a lifeline, a bridge that connects us to one another, uniting our hearts in the face of adversity. In every era of struggle, it has been the brave souls who dared to speak up that have ignited change. They understood that silence breeds complacency while words can spark revolutions. It is the responsibility of each of us to break this cycle of silence, to illuminate the path toward justice and understanding. Our words can become a shield against the storms of oppression, reminding those who suffer that their pain matters and that their stories are worthy of being told. Let us never forget that to remain silent is to allow suffering to continue unchecked. Each of us holds the power to change the course of another's life simply by choosing to speak. We can shed light on the hidden injustices, lifting the veil of ignorance that keeps so many trapped in despair. Our voices have the potential to resonate far beyond our immediate circles, creating ripples that reach the very core of society. In this delicate dance of existence, let us step forward, unafraid to lift our voices for those who cannot lift theirs. Let us remember that our silence does not protect us. It kills the spirit of those who look to us for hope. The choice is ours: to remain in the shadows of silence or to step into the light of responsibility, boldly declaring that we will not stand by while others suffer. In doing so, we transform our silence into a powerful testament to our shared humanity, a promise that we will not allow suffering to exist unchallenged. Empathy is a delicate thread that binds us to one another, a powerful force that allows us to step beyond the boundaries of our own experiences and into the hearts of others. In the tapestry of humanity, it is this profound understanding of another's suffering that compels us to act. When we see a fellow soul grappling with the weight of despair, we are given an opportunity, a chance to break the chains of silence that ensnare them and to let them know they are not alone. Yet when we choose to remain silent, we do more than simply abstain from action. We close the door on compassion and allow their pain to echo unheard. Imagine a world where empathy is not a fleeting sentiment, but a steady flame that fuels our desire to speak out against injustice. Each silent moment we endure while others suffer is a moment when we deny our shared humanity. It is easy to dismiss the struggles of those around us, to cocoon ourselves in the comfort of ignorance. But this choice comes at a cost. In our silence, we create a chasm between ourselves and those in need, isolating them in their suffering and perpetuating their sense of solitude. Those who suffer silently are not merely statistics. They are vibrant, complex beings who carry the weight of their experiences on their shoulders. They are fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters, individuals with dreams, aspirations, and the desire to be heard. When we silence our empathy, we fail to acknowledge their humanity, their right to exist in a world where their stories matter. In doing so, we become unwitting accomplices in their suffering, allowing the darkness to grow unchallenged. Empathy calls us to action. It ignites a fire within us that demands we speak out against the injustices that surround us. It nudges us to lend our voices to the voiceless, to stand up for those who feel invisible in a world that often turns a blind eye. When we let empathy guide our words, we cultivate a deep understanding of the struggles faced by others. We come to realize that our lives are intertwined, that the fate of one is the fate of many. Consider the countless moments when someone has reached out to you, offering a word of kindness or a gesture of support. Those moments have the power to transform the mundane into the extraordinary, to lift us from the depths of despair. In the same way, when we extend that same compassion to those who suffer, we allow our empathy to bloom into action. We shatter the silence that binds them and give voice to their pain, validating their experiences and reaffirming their worth. It is imperative that we embrace the power of empathy as a catalyst for change. We must allow it to guide our hearts and compel us to speak out when we see others suffering. When we confront the injustices that plague our communities with empathy, we create a ripple effect that encourages others to do the same. Together, we can dismantle the walls that silence the oppressed, turning our collective voices into a symphony of hope and resistance. Our silence then becomes an ally to suffering, a facilitator of despair. In those quiet moments of inaction, we betray our potential to uplift and empower others. We must remember that our voices can shine light on the darkest corners of injustice, illuminating the path to healing and solidarity. Let us choose empathy over indifference, understanding over ignorance, and action over silence. In doing so, we affirm that every voice matters, that every story deserves to be told, and that no one should suffer in silence. By weaving empathy into the fabric of our lives, we transform our awareness into a potent force for change. Together, let us break the silence that kills and instead create a chorus of compassion that reverberates through the hearts of those in need, echoing a message of hope and resilience that can light the way to a better tomorrow. History is a vast tapestry, woven with the threads of courage and resistance, and throughout its chapters, we find the powerful voices of those who dared to stand against the tide of oppression. From the gentle yet unyielding whispers of those in the Underground Railroad to the thunderous cries that filled the air during civil rights marches, there exists a profound truth. It is the bravery to speak out that has fueled the fires of change. When we reflect on these moments, we recognize that silence is not merely a lack of words, it is a silent acquiescence to the suffering of others, a choice that can have devastating consequences. The stories of those who have come before us remind us that silence often serves as a shelter for injustice, allowing it to thrive unchecked. Consider the countless souls who have lived in the shadows of systemic oppression, their cries muted by fear and ignorance. In their most vulnerable moments, they turned to those who wielded the power of speech, those willing to risk everything to amplify their struggles. The triumphs of movements that have shaped our world are etched not only in the hearts of the courageous, but also in the voices that stood beside them, refusing to be silent. Yet how easily we forget the lessons of the past. The memory of those who fought valiantly for justice becomes a distant echo when we retreat into our comfortable silence, believing that our inaction will keep us safe. But let us not be deceived, our silence is a choice, one that has the potential to condemn others to a fate of unending suffering. The struggles of today's oppressed mirror those of yesterday. They remind us that the battles for dignity, freedom, and equality are far from over. When we stand by, refusing to raise our voices, we allow history to repeat itself, creating a cycle of despair that crushes the spirit of those who dare to dream. History teaches us that words have the power to ignite revolutions, to challenge the status quo, and to demand justice. It was the power of speech that rallied people to the cause, that brought communities together in a shared struggle against the darkness. It is essential for us to remember that each voice added to the chorus creates a symphony of strength, drowning out the silence that allows injustice to flourish. Every time we fail to speak out, we risk relegating ourselves to the pages of history as passive observers rather than active participants in the fight for a better world. In the face of suffering, we must ask ourselves, will we be the ones who stand in the light, lifting our voices in solidarity, or will we allow the silence to shroud the cries for help? History beckons us to be vigilant, to learn from those who came before us, and to understand that the weight of our silence can be as heavy as the chains that bind the oppressed. We owe it to those who have fought for justice, to those who have sacrificed so much to carry their legacy forward by refusing to be silent when their stories are at stake. Let us embrace our role as stewards of history, recognizing that the legacy we create today will shape the world of tomorrow. We must ensure that the voices of the marginalized are not drowned out by our indifference. Instead, let us rise, echoing the lessons of those who have walked this path before us. Our words can serve as instruments of change, shattering the silence that threatens to suffocate hope and healing. When we speak out against injustice, we join the ranks of those who have transformed history, those who have refused to accept the status quo. We take up the mantle of responsibility, ensuring that future generations will not have to grapple with the same struggles. Together, we can cultivate a culture where silence is no longer a refuge for oppression, but rather a call to action, a reminder that our voices must rise to meet the needs of those who suffer. We must honor the sacrifices of those who came before us by choosing to be vocal advocates for justice, ensuring that their legacies live on in every word we speak. Our silence is killing them, but our voices can save lives, heal wounds, and carve a path toward a brighter, more equitable future. Let us take up the call, weaving our voices into the rich tapestry of history, transforming silence into a chorus of courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice for all. Isolation is a silent predator, lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce upon those who suffer alone. In a world that often feels vast and overwhelming, many find themselves trapped in a solitary existence, burdened by their pain and yearning for connection. When we fail to speak out, we not only perpetuate their suffering, but also deepen their sense of isolation, reinforcing the belief that their struggles are invisible and their voices unworthy. It is within this profound solitude that the silence becomes deafening, a cacophony of despair that can drown out even the faintest flicker of hope. Consider the countless individuals who, in their moments of despair, cry out for help only to be met with silence. Their voices tremble in the air, fragile yet full of yearning as they reach out for connection, for understanding, for acknowledgement of their pain. Yet all too often their cries fade into the void unheard and unheeded. In that silence, they are left to grapple with their suffering alone, feeling as though they are the only ones bearing the weight of the world. When we turn away, when we refuse to engage, we contribute to a culture of invisibility that suffocates the spirit. The human heart is not designed for solitude. It longs for companionship, for understanding, for the sweet balm of shared experiences. Each of us carries a story, a narrative woven with threads of joy and sorrow, triumph and defeat. When we remain silent in the face of someone else's pain, we deny them the opportunity to share their truth, to be seen, and to be heard. It is in these moments of connection that healing begins, that the isolation starts to unravel, allowing the light of compassion to seep in. In the act of speaking out, we create a bridge between ourselves and those who suffer. We affirm that their pain matters, that they are not alone in their struggles. Our voices can echo across the chasms of isolation, reaching out to those who feel forgotten and lifting them from the shadows. Each word we offer can serve as a lifeline, pulling them from the depths of despair and reminding them that they are part of a larger community, a tapestry of shared humanity that thrives on connection and compassion. Let us reflect on the power of our presence, on the impact that a simple act of speaking up can have on someone who feels utterly alone. When we take the time to listen, to engage, and to respond, we break the chains of isolation that bind them. We become catalysts for change, transforming their silent suffering into a collective cry for justice and understanding. In those moments, we create a safe space where they can share their stories, where their truths can resonate, and where the healing process can begin. But we must remember that our silence does not protect us, it kills them. By choosing to ignore the pain around us, we inadvertently foster an environment where suffering thrives unchecked. We become complicit in their isolation, allowing despair to become their constant companion. It is our responsibility to combat this cycle, to rise above our fear of discomfort, and to engage with those who are hurting. When we break our silence, we dismantle the walls of isolation that separate us from one another. We choose to see the humanity in others, to understand that each person carries a weight that deserves recognition. Our words become a balm for the wounds of loneliness, and our willingness to listen becomes a beacon of hope for those who feel lost in the darkness. Together, we can foster a culture where silence no longer reigns, where every voice is valued, and where the bonds of community are strengthened. Let us embrace our role as advocates, speaking out against the injustices that keep others isolated in their suffering. By lifting our voices, we create a ripple effect that invites others to join in, breaking the silence that threatens to consume them and forging connections that can transform despair into resilience. In this sacred endeavor, let us remember that our voices carry the power to change lives. Each time we choose to speak, we affirm that no one should suffer in silence, that every story deserves to be told, and that together we can cultivate a world where isolation is vanquished and empathy reigns supreme. By recognizing and addressing the isolation that plagues so many, we reclaim our shared humanity and ensure that our silence is no longer a death knell, but a powerful chorus of hope and healing. Courage is the beacon that lights the way through the darkest of nights, an unwavering force that dares us to confront the injustices that threaten the fabric of our humanity. It is a call to action that beckons us to stand firm in our convictions, to speak out against the suffering of others, and to rise in defiance of silence. In a world fraught with fear and uncertainty, courage is not merely the absence of fear, it is the choice to act in spite of it. When we allow ourselves to remain silent, we strip away our power to effect change, and we become complicit in the very suffering we seek to alleviate. Think of the countless individuals who have exhibited extraordinary courage in the face of adversity. They have faced the fire of persecution, the chilling whispers of doubt, and the weight of societal expectations, yet they have chosen to lift their voices against the tide of silence. Their bravery serves as a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest moments we can stand tall and refuse to be silenced. In the echoes of their struggles, we hear the resounding truth: when one voice rises in courage, it inspires others to join the chorus, creating a symphony of strength that can shatter the silence of oppression. But what happens when we allow fear to dictate our choices? When we choose silence over action, we abandon the very principles of justice and equality that bind us together. We relinquish our power to challenge the status quo, leaving those who suffer without the support they so desperately need. Each time we turn away from the cries of the oppressed, we allow the darkness to deepen, and we become complicit in a system that thrives on indifference. Our silence kills them, snuffing out their hopes and dreams like a candle extinguished in the wind. Courage invites us to step into the light, to embrace the discomfort that comes with confronting difficult truths. It urges us to speak out against injustice, even when it feels daunting, even when the odds seem insurmountable. In our willingness to be vulnerable, to share our truths, we create a space for others to do the same. We remind those who suffer that they are not alone, that their voices matter, and that their stories deserve to be heard. In doing so, we transform our fear into fuel, igniting a fire that can illuminate even the darkest corners of despair. Imagine a world where each of us embraced our courage, where we chose to speak up for those whose voices have been stifled. In that world, silence would no longer be a refuge for oppression, but a call to action, a rallying cry for justice. When we refuse to remain silent, we give life to the stories of the marginalized, honoring their experiences and amplifying their cries for help. Each act of courage can inspire a movement, creating a ripple effect that reverberates through communities, touching lives and sparking change. Let us honor those who have come before us, who have paved the way with their bravery, by choosing to rise up and speak out in their stead. We are called to be the champions of those who cannot advocate for themselves, the defenders of those who suffer in silence. When we act with courage, we embody the spirit of solidarity, demonstrating that we will not stand idly by while others endure unimaginable pain. We must remember that our voices have the power to challenge systems of injustice, to disrupt the status quo, and to reclaim the narrative that has been silenced for far too long. We must break the chains of fear that bind us, recognizing that the act of speaking out is not only an expression of our strength, but a declaration of our humanity. In this sacred journey, let us embrace our courage as a guiding force, refusing to let silence be our legacy. Together we can build a world where every voice is valued, where every story is honored, and where the cries for justice echo loud and clear. By lifting our voices, we transform fear into hope, isolation into connection, and silence into a powerful anthem of change. In doing so, we affirm that our silence is killing them, but our courage can save lives, ignite movements, and illuminate a path toward a brighter, more just future for all. In the intricate web of human experience, we find that our lives are interwoven, each thread connected by the universal truths of compassion and understanding. We are not isolated beings, separate and alone. We are part of a larger tapestry, and the pain of one resonates in the hearts of many. This is why the silence of one can echo with devastating consequences, reverberating through the lives of those who suffer in solitude. When we remain silent in the face of injustice, we perpetuate a cycle of disconnection that allows suffering to flourish unchecked. Consider the profound impact that a simple act of solidarity can have on those who endure hardship. When we choose to lift our voices against oppression, we not only affirm our shared humanity, but also create a space where others feel empowered to speak out. Our words can act as a bridge, connecting us to those who have been marginalized, affirming that their pain is valid and that they are worthy of love and support. Yet, when we turn away, when we choose silence over action, we deepen the chasm of isolation that many experience, leaving them to grapple with their struggles alone. Imagine the countless individuals who are waiting for anyone to acknowledge their pain. They look to us, yearning for connection, for recognition, for the understanding that their suffering does not go unnoticed. In those moments, our silence becomes a barrier, a wall that separates us from one another, hindering our ability to empathize and to heal. We must confront the truth that our inaction can suffocate the hope of those who look to us for support, making them feel invisible and unworthy. In this delicate dance of existence, we have a choice to step forward with courage, lifting our voices in solidarity, or to retreat into the shadows of silence. When we choose to speak out against injustice, we transform our words into powerful instruments of change, challenging the status quo and affirming that every story deserves to be told. Our voices can break through the barriers that divide us, shining a light on the struggles that often go unseen. But let us not be deceived. It is not enough to simply speak. We must also listen. In our pursuit of justice, we must create spaces where those who suffer feel safe to share their experiences. It is through the act of listening that we truly honor the stories of others, acknowledging their pain and allowing them the dignity of being heard. Each time we offer our ears and our hearts, we weave a thread of connection, reinforcing the bonds of humanity that unite us all. In our interconnectedness, we find our strength. When we recognize that the struggles of others are not distant or foreign, but rather a reflection of our shared existence, we become champions of change. We can no longer afford to remain silent witnesses to suffering, for in doing so, we risk becoming complicit in the systems of oppression that perpetuate it. Our silence kills them, suffocating their hopes and dreams under the weight of our indifference. As we reflect on our collective responsibility, let us remember that our voices hold the power to uplift and empower. We can amplify the cries of the marginalized, ensuring that their stories are woven into the fabric of our shared narrative. Together, we can dismantle the barriers that isolate us, creating a community rooted in empathy, compassion, and understanding. Let us choose to be the voices that rise against injustice, the hearts that reach out to those who suffer, and the hands that lift others in their times of need. In doing so, we affirm our commitment to a world where silence no longer reigns, where every voice matters, and where the cries for justice echo loud and clear. Together, we can break the chains of silence, transforming our collective pain into a powerful force for healing, empowerment, and solidarity. For in our unity lies the promise of a brighter tomorrow, a tomorrow where no one must suffer alone, where every story is honored, and where our silence is forever transformed into a resounding call for justice and compassion. Hope is the ember that flickers in the heart of humanity, a light that refuses to be extinguished even in the darkest of times. It is a force that transcends our individual struggles, weaving through our collective experience, binding us together in our quest for justice and understanding. But when we remain silent, when we refuse to acknowledge the pain of others, we snuff out that ember, leaving those who suffer in a void of despair. Our silence is not merely an absence of words, it is an act that can stifle the very breath of hope that sustains the weary. In the face of adversity, it is hope that allows us to envision a better tomorrow. It is the dream that propels us forward, that whispers in our ears that change is possible, that healing can happen. But when silence prevails, when we fail to speak out against the injustices that surround us, we diminish that hope. We contribute to an atmosphere where suffering goes unnoticed, where the cries of the oppressed are swallowed by the noise of indifference. In those moments, we deny them the comfort of knowing that their struggles matter, that their voices can spark change. Each of us has a role to play in nurturing hope, in fostering a sense of belonging and connection among those who feel isolated in their suffering. When we stand up and speak out, we create a ripple effect, a wave of encouragement that can lift others from the depths of despair. Our words can ignite a passion within those who have lost their way, reminding them that they are not alone, that their pain is shared, and that their dreams are worth fighting for. Hope flourishes in the soil of compassion, watered by the collective voices that refuse to remain silent. Consider the stories of those who have dared to hope against the odds, who have fought tirelessly for their right to be heard. They have endured hardships that would crush the spirit of many, yet they persist, driven by the belief that change is not only possible but essential. When we choose to lift our voices in solidarity with theirs, we affirm that their struggles are not in vain. We breathe life into their hopes, fueling their determination to rise above the challenges they face. But let us not forget that our silence can be a heavy burden for those who suffer. When we choose to ignore their pain, we reinforce the belief that their struggles are insignificant, that they do not deserve recognition or support. In doing so, we risk extinguishing their hopes, leaving them adrift in a sea of despair. Our words, when spoken with intention and compassion, can serve as lifelines, reminding those in pain that their lives matter and that they are worthy of love and respect. Hope is not a passive sentiment, it is an active force that demands our engagement. It calls us to action, urging us to confront the injustices that threaten to silence the voices of the marginalized. Each time we choose to speak out, to stand in solidarity with those who suffer, we reaffirm our commitment to a world where hope can thrive. We become advocates for change, champions of those who feel voiceless, and beacons of light for those lost in the shadows. As we reflect on the importance of hope, let us remember that we are not alone in this endeavor. We are part of a collective movement, a chorus of voices rising together to demand justice, understanding, and compassion. By lifting our voices, we cultivate an environment where hope can flourish, where the cries for help are met with empathy, and where the silence that kills is transformed into a powerful anthem of resilience. Let us choose to be the ones who ignite hope in the hearts of those who feel powerless. In our refusal to remain silent, we weave a tapestry of connection that celebrates our shared humanity. Together, we can create a world where hope is not a fleeting ember, but a raging fire, illuminating the path toward justice and healing. When we speak out, we breathe life into dreams, transforming despair into determination and silence into a resounding call for change. Our silence is killing them, but our voices can be the instruments of hope, the catalyst for transformation, and the harbingers of a brighter future. Together, let us nurture the flame of hope, ensuring that it burns brightly for all who seek solace, understanding, and the promise of a better tomorrow. For in our unity lies the strength to overcome the darkness and to ensure that hope always finds its voice. To be human is to engage in a delicate dance with vulnerability, to acknowledge that our lives are interwoven with the stories of others. In this shared existence, we must remember that our silence can become a fortress, imprisoning not only our voices, but also the voices of those who cry out for justice and understanding. It is in this silence that suffering festers, hidden from the light of compassion, and the truths of those who are marginalized go unspoken. When we remain silent, we strip away the power of empathy, creating barriers that prevent us from connecting with the pain of others. Imagine a world where we dared to embrace vulnerability, where we recognize that our struggles, though unique, are also shared. In that world, silence would no longer serve as a shield against discomfort, but rather as an invitation to engage, to listen, and to understand. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create spaces where others can also share their truths, where the act of speaking becomes an expression of our collective humanity. Each story told is a thread woven into the tapestry of our existence, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. When we choose silence, we deny ourselves the opportunity to connect deeply with the struggles of others. We become observers of their pain, detached from the realities that shape their lives. In this detachment, we lose sight of the profound truth that our empathy can serve as a powerful antidote to suffering. The more we connect, the more we understand, and the more we recognize that the pain of one is indeed the pain of many. It is through our vulnerability that we can dismantle the walls of isolation and cultivate a sense of belonging for those who feel adrift. Let us not forget that our vulnerability can inspire courage in others. When we choose to share our struggles, to speak out against the injustices we witness, we embolden those who feel powerless. Our willingness to be open and honest about our own experiences creates a ripple effect, encouraging others to step into the light and share their stories. In this shared vulnerability, we forge bonds of solidarity that can withstand the harshest storms. The act of speaking out against injustice requires us to confront our own fears, to acknowledge that vulnerability is not a weakness but a strength. It is a recognition that we are all flawed, that we all carry burdens, and that our collective struggle can become a source of empowerment. When we lean into our vulnerability, we find that we can uplift those who suffer, showing them that they are not alone in their pain. Our voices can break through the silence that kills, offering solace and understanding to those who feel unheard. We must challenge the notion that vulnerability equates to weakness. Instead, let us embrace it as a catalyst for change. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create spaces where others feel safe to do the same. We invite them to share their stories, to speak their truths, and to assert their right to be heard. In these moments of connection, we illuminate the path toward healing, compassion, and justice. As we reflect on the power of vulnerability, let us remember that silence can be a silent killer, perpetuating cycles of suffering and isolation. By choosing to speak out, we dismantle the barriers that keep us apart, allowing our shared experiences to foster understanding and compassion. Together, we can build a world where vulnerability is celebrated, where the stories of the marginalized are amplified, and where silence is transformed into a powerful symphony of solidarity. Let us be the voices that rise against the oppressive silence, lifting others as we climb. In our refusal to be silent, we weave a tapestry of connection that honors the humanity in us all. Our vulnerability can become the soil in which hope and resilience take root, reminding us that together we can overcome the darkness that threatens to consume us. We are called to be brave, to speak out against injustice, and to ensure that our silence is not a death knell for those who suffer. Instead, let it be the catalyst for change, the beginning of a movement toward understanding, compassion, and justice for all. In the grand tapestry of life, we each possess a unique thread woven together in a beautiful, complex design that represents the collective experience of humanity. Our lives are intertwined, and the echoes of our actions or inactions resound through the lives of those around us. Each unspoken word, each moment of hesitation to voice our truth carries weight. When we remain silent, we risk unraveling the very fabric of connection that binds us, leaving behind a patchwork of isolation and despair for those who need our support the most. Consider the powerful impact of standing in solidarity with those who suffer. It is in our shared humanity that we find the strength to rise up against the injustices that permeate our society. Yet, when we choose to turn away, when we allow silence to seep into our hearts, we deny ourselves the opportunity to connect deeply with those who are struggling. We forget that our silence is not a passive choice, it is an active decision that can extinguish the flicker of hope in someone else's heart. Let us remember that each of us has a story, a voice that deserves to be heard. When we suppress our voices, we diminish the richness of our shared experience. The pain of one becomes the pain of many, and our silence only serves to deepen the wounds of isolation and suffering. We must ask ourselves, what harm do we do when we refuse to speak out against injustice? What lives are we endangering when we choose to remain silent in the face of adversity? Each time we lift our voices in defense of those who cannot speak for themselves, we create ripples of change that extend far beyond our immediate circles. Our words can inspire others to join the chorus, transforming individual struggles into a powerful movement for justice. We can shatter the chains of silence that bind the oppressed, replacing it with a resounding anthem of hope and resilience. In the act of speaking out, we reaffirm our commitment to a world where every voice matters, where every story is cherished, and where silence no longer reigns supreme. But we must also acknowledge that the act of speaking is not just about raising our voices, it is about listening deeply to the voices of others. It is through active listening that we can truly understand the complexities of their experiences, validating their pain and acknowledging their right to exist unapologetically. When we listen, we create a sanctuary where vulnerability can flourish, where shared experiences become the foundation for healing and empowerment. In our silence, we allow fear to dictate our actions, stifling the very conversations that can bring about change. Let us refuse to allow fear to control us, for it is through courage that we find our true strength. We must recognize that silence is not an ally, it is a thief that steals away our ability to empathize and to connect. When we choose to engage with the struggles of others, we dismantle the barriers of misunderstanding and prejudice, creating pathways for compassion to flow freely. As we navigate the complexities of our interconnected lives, let us commit to being vigilant stewards of our voices. Let us cultivate a culture of openness, where every individual feels empowered to share their truth without fear of judgment or retribution. In doing so, we can create a world where silence is no longer a weapon wielded against the vulnerable, but rather a pause for reflection, a space for understanding, and an opportunity for connection. In the end, it is our responsibility to ensure that our silence does not kill the dreams and aspirations of others. When we choose to speak, we create a symphony of voices that resonates with the power of love, understanding, and solidarity. Together, we can rewrite the narrative of isolation into one of empowerment and hope. By lifting each other up, we weave a tapestry that celebrates our shared humanity, a vibrant representation of a world where silence no longer prevails and where every voice is honored and cherished. Let us stand together, united in our commitment to speak out against the injustices that threaten to silence the most vulnerable among us. Our voices can spark change, ignite hope, and bring healing to a world in desperate need of compassion. Together, we can ensure that silence is not a killer, but a catalyst for transformation, a stepping stone toward a brighter future where every story is told, every voice is heard, and every life is valued.